Guys, Luis here. So in the previous video, we discussed some of the concept of DNS, and then the last thing we discussed was the DNS zones. Now we're supposed to talk about the DNS resource records, but then I actually want to show you so that you can actually see how the DNS is able to identify all the various systems on the network or probably in the world. They do this using what we call the DNS resource records. There are so many DNS resource records out there. Let me quickly put them in the notepad so that we can look at them one after the other. We have resource records. We have the A record, A or A records. Then we have the MX records. We have the C name. We have the PTR. We have the SOA. We have the NS record. We have the SRV. So these are the DNS resource records. Now, what do these mean? Now, the DNS server assign these to the various entries in the DNS database. So when you see an A record or AAA record, what it means is that this is an address record. The A record maps host names to IP version 4 addresses, whereas the quadruple A records map host names to IP version 6 records. The MX stands for Mail Exchanger. This is used to locate the SMTP servers on the network. By SMTP servers, I mean the mail servers on the network. So the MX record determines where on the network the emails for the domain are supposed to be forwarded to. C name stands for canonical name. This is used to create an alias for your domain. So maybe if you have a system that has a name, maybe DC1, you don't want the world to know that your main server is called DC1, then you can create an alias. For example, we can call it maybe louis.yourdomainname.com. For example, when you have a web server on your network, you don't want the whole world to know that your web server is called DC1. So you can create an alias called www. So whenever anyone is accessing your web server, they're going to type the name www.louis.com, and then it's going to point it to the DC1, which is in your organization. So the whole world don't know that your web server is called DC1. And we have the PTR. PTR stands for pointer record. Remember when we were discussing the zones, we spoke about forward lookup zones and reverse lookup zones. Then I said that the reverse lookup is used to do IP address to host name resolution. So the record that allows that to happen is the pointer record. The pointer record keeps information about IP addresses and point them to domain names. So it does the reverse form of what the A does. The A record does forward lookups, which is domain names to IP addresses. Then you have the SOA. SOA stands for Start of Authority. Now, this server or this record identifies the server that is authoritative for that particular domain. At any point in time, there can only be one SOA for a domain. Then we have the NS record. NS record is used to identify all the name servers on the network. So if you see any record with NS by the side, then it means that this is a DNS server. Then you have the SRV. SRV identifies the various services that are running on your network, like if you have LDAP, Lightweight Directory Access Protocol, or Kerberos, all these are services that run on the network. So they are going to be identified with the SRV, which is the service locator. So let's jump onto the DNS server and then look at how some of these things are. The one thing that we need to know is that mostly you don't configure DNS unless you require some advanced settings, because we've been using DNS since the beginning when we installed our server. We've joined clients to the domain using the domain name. At each of these times, there was a DNS name pointed to. So DNS has been working since day one when we installed Active Directory, only that we have not even touched or tried configuring it. So let's go to Tools, and then we have DNS here. So this is how DNS look like. This is the DNS Manager. And then when you expand the server name, you have your stuff here. So we have the forward lookup zones, the reverse lookup zones, the trust points, and then the conditional forwarder. So when you create any conditional forwarder, this is where it's going to be located. Then we have when you expand the forward lookup zones, we have the MSDCs that identifies our domain controllers. So when you come here, we have the DCs, we have the GC, we have the primary domain controller, and we have the domains. Then when you look here, these are some of the DNS records. So you can see that we have what we call start of authority, and it is dc1.louis.com. So what it means is that my dc1, which is my first server I created, is my start of authority. Then when we come to the domain records itself, the louis.com, we have a couple of domains here, a couple of records here. So there are our protocols, and then domain DNS zones and the forward DNS zones. Then we have the records here. So this is how the DNS records look like. So we have DC1, that's its IP address. Before that, we also have the start of authority, which is SOA for DC1. Then we have another server. We have an NS server here, which is also DC1. Then there is another server DC5, which is just a host A record. So you notice we have the host A records, which is pointing to the system's name and then its IP address. Then when we come back to the MSDCs, let me open the DC and then go to sites. So I have a default first site name. And then when I come here, you notice there's a service called Kerberos. Kerberos is the authentication protocol for the system. You notice it is identified as an SRV, service location, and then we also have LDAP, which is the query protocol for Active Directory. It also has a label SRV. So technically, unless you are configuring an advanced setting of DNS, you may not really do any configuration in your DNS. So we are going to leave this here. We will treat Active Directory Trust. Then we will come and then look at how to create some of the zones like a stop zone and then use it as part of the lesson. So we are going to pause the video on DNS here. In the next video, I'm going to be talking about DHCP, Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. Then from there, we'll look at the Active Directory Trusts. So to be able to do the Active Directory Trust, I want you to install another server and then configure it. This time, use your own domain name, any domain name at all that you want. But then for this to properly work in our virtualized environment, the IP address must be within the same range as our current IP configuration. So thank you for watching. See you in the next video. Subscribe. If you have any questions, drop them down and then I'll address them for you. Have a good time.